Hello everyone. So now let's see the data modeling. A data model is a collection of conceptual tools for describing data relationships, data semantics, and consistency constraints. In simple terms, data models define how the logical structure of a database is modeled. That is, data models define how data is connected to each other and how they are processed and stored inside the system. Data models are fundamental entities to introduce abstraction in the DBMS. Categories of data models: high level or conceptual data model, which provides concepts that are close to the way many users perceive data, whereas low level or physical data models provide concepts that are describe the details of how data is stored in the computer. Entity relationship ER model is based on the notion of real world entities and relationships among them. While formulating real world scenario into the database model, the ER model creates entity set, relationship set, general attributes and constraints. ER model is the best use for the conceptual design of a database. ER model is based on entities and their attributes, relationships among entities. In ER modeling, the database structure is portrayed as a diagram called an entity relationship diagram. Why use ER diagrams? First one is it helps you to define terms related to entity relationship modeling. Provide a preview of how all the tables should connect, what fields are going to be on each table. Helps to describe entities, attributes, relationships. ER diagrams are translatable into relational tables, which allows you to build databases quickly. ER diagrams can be used by database designers as a blueprint for implementing data in specific software applications. The database designer gains a better understanding of information to be contained in the database with the help of ERP diagram. And next one is ERD diagram. Allows you to communicate with the logical structure of the database to users. Here is a basic ER model which gives idea about entity, attribute and relations. Relation is divided into four types: one to one, one to many to one and many to many. ER diagram symbols. First one is rectangles. This entity relationship diagram symbol represents entity types. Double rectangles, weak entity sets, ellipses. Symbol represent attributes. Double ellipse represent multi-valued attributes. Dashed ellipse derived attributes. Diamonds. This symbol represents relationship types. Lines. It links attributes to entity types and entity types with other relationship types. Primary key attributes are underlined. Now let's see about entity. An entity in an ER model is a real world object. An entity is a thing or object in the real world that is distinguishable from all other objects. For example, each person in an enterprise is an entity. Each entity has attributes, the particular properties that describe it, or attributes are descriptive properties possessed by each member of an entity set. For example, an employee entity may be described by the employee's name, age, address, salary, and job. Weak entity, an entity that depends on another entity called as a weak entity. The weak entity doesn't contain any key attribute of its own. The weak entity is represented by a double rectangle. Here is the example for that. Now let's see the difference between strong entity set and weak entity set. The first point in the strong entity set is a single rectangle is used for the representation of strong entity set. It contains sufficient attributes to form its primary key. A diamond symbol is used for the representation of the relationship that exists between the two strong entity sets. A single line is used for the representation of the connection between the strong entity set and the relationship. Total participation may or may not exist in the relationship. A double rectangle is used for the representation of a weak entity set. It does not contain sufficient attributes to form its primary key. A double diamond shaped is is used for the representation of the identifying relationship that exists between the strong and weak entity set. A diamond line is used for the representation of the connection between the weak entity set and the relationship set. Total participation always exists in the identifying relationship. Now let's see the total and partial participation. Total participation, each entity is involved in the relationship. Total participation is represented by double lines. Partial participation, not all entities are involved in the relationship. Partial partition is represented by single lines. Entity set. An entity set is a set of entities of the same type that share the same properties or attributes. The set of all persons who are customers at a given bank, for example, can be defined as the entity set customer. The individual entities that constitute a set are said to be the extension of the entity set. Thus, all the individual bank customers are the extension of an entity set customer. Attribute. The attribute is used to describe the property of an entity. For example, ID, age, contact number, name can be attributes of a student. Now let's see about the key attribute. The key attribute is used to represent the main characteristics of an entity. It represents the primary key. Primary key. A key attribute is represented by an ellipse with the text underlined. You can see in the image also. Next one is simple attribute. Simple attributes can't be divided any further. For example, a student's department name. It is also called as atomic value. Composite attribute. It is possible to break down composite attribute. For example, a student's full name may be further divided into first name, second name, and the last name. Derived attribute. This type of attribute does not include in the physical database. However, their values are derived from other attributes present in the database. For example, age should not be stored directly. Instead, it should be derived from the DOB of that employee. Thank you.